My sister collapsed from her chronic pain right as I announced my promotion. But then I handed her the video I'd taken 20 minutes earlier and watched her face as she realized everyone now knew the truth. My little sister was born 2 months prematurely, came out bluer than a smurf, and spent the first 3 years of her life hooked up to tubes and machines. Naturally, my parents were super protective of her. They'd stay by her side, buy every toy she wanted, and demand I ditch hanging with friends to babysit her. At first, I thought this was right. She was my chronically ill baby sister. But then she got older, she got healthier, she no longer needed tubes or machines and could live normally. However, by this point, she had learned that being sick got her whatever she wanted, whether that be materialistic things or just sympathy and attention. It started with her headaches mysteriously coming back whenever she was doing homework. My parents would take the homework away before replacing it with ice cream. And by the time Lauren turned 11 and I was 16, she had perfected her act. And that really bothered me because her pain only struck during my moments. When I made varsity soccer, she developed mysterious stomach cramps that required my parents to leave my first game early. When I got accepted into college, she collapsed during my celebration dinner, and we spent the night in the ER, where doctors found nothing wrong. The worst part was how she'd smirk at me when our parents weren't looking. She even practiced her pain faces in the mirror. I tried showing my parents once, but Lauren had already told them I was jealous of the attention she needed for her condition. My boyfriend Ethan lasted 8 months before Lauren got to him. She created fake screenshots of messages where I supposedly called her a faker and wished she would just die already. The breakup happened at a coffee shop. Coffee. Ethan slid his phone across the table, showing me the evidence Lauren had compiled. He said he couldn't be with someone who treated their sick sister so cruelly. Lauren texted me a selfie wearing the hoodie Ethan had given me. That was my breaking point. For 5 years, I had watched her steal everything, so I started watching her closely. Way more closely than anyone ever had. And I noticed a pattern. Every time she was in pain, she always grabbed her right side. Whether that's her head, her kidney, always right side. She always called specifically for mom, always rated her pain between 8 and 10, and always recovered in exactly 2 to 3 hours, which was just long enough to ruin what I had planned. Once I knew this, I developed my plan. And last Sunday, it went down better than I ever could have hoped for. We were having our monthly family dinner with all the aunts, uncles, and cousins. 20 minutes before dinner, I went up to the bathroom where I recorded a video. I explained in the video that I was about to make a fake announcement about getting promoted at work. In this video, I predicted exactly how Lauren would react. I said she would wait for the applause to die down, then grab her right side and whimper for mom. She would rate her pain as an 8, 9, or 10. She would need to lie down immediately, and she would ask mom to take her to the hospital if the pain doesn't get better within 20 minutes. At dinner, I stood up and clinked my glass. I got everyone's attention, then announced I had just been promoted with a huge raise. Everyone applauded and congratulated me. Uncles patting my back, cousins hugging me, my mother with tears of pride in her eyes. The sound of clapping echoed through the dining room, mixed with congratulations and jokes about how I could finally pay my own bills. Uncle Daniel made a joke about me becoming the rich niece of the family, while Grandma was already planning out loud how I could help with her medications. I kept the smile on my face, waving and thanking everyone, but my eyes were fixed on Lauren. She was sitting at the other end of the long table between my cousin Marcus and Aunt Patricia, absent-mindedly playing with the mashed potatoes on her plate. For a moment, she almost seemed genuinely happy for me. Almost. But I knew her too well. I saw when something changed in her expression. It was subtle, as it always was. A small contraction around the eyes, a slight stiffening of the shoulders. She looked around the table, noticing how all attention was focused on me, how people were really excited about my achievement, how I was shining. And then it began. First, she stopped eating. She let her fork drop onto her plate with a low clink that only a few people nearby noticed. Aunt Patricia asked if she was okay, but Lauren just shook her head with a forced smile. One of those she used when she wanted to appear brave despite the pain. I continued talking with Uncle Pedro about the details of the promotion, lying shamelessly about responsibilities I didn't have and a salary that didn't exist. But part of me was timing it. 3, 2, 1. Like a Swiss watch, she brought her hand to the right side of her abdomen. The first sound Lauren made was so quiet that it almost disappeared beneath the chatter around the table, just a faint little sigh. But I knew she had done it on purpose because she always knew exactly how to make people notice without making it seem obvious. My cousin Marcus, who was sitting beside her, stopped talking in the middle of telling everyone about his new job. "Lauren, are you okay?" he asked as he leaned closer to her. "It is nothing," she replied softly, yet her voice carried just far enough for nearly half the table to catch every word. She used that familiar tone she had mastered over the years, trying to sound strong while letting just enough vulnerability slip through to make everyone instantly worry. Just a little pain. And just like that, the performance I had witnessed more times than I could count was underway. Aunt Patricia immediately forgot all about her conversation with Grandpa regarding politics and turned her full attention to Lauren. "What kind of pain, sweetheart? Where does it hurt?" Lauren bent forward ever so slightly in her chair. It was flawless, every movement carefully measured. Not dramatic enough to look fake, but just convincing enough to seem completely real. It is right here on my right side," she said while pressing her hand against her side. "It just started all of a sudden. I watched everything change right before my eyes." The conversation slowly faded as voices became quieter. One by one, every pair of eyes shifted toward Lauren. The promotion everyone had been congratulating me on only moments earlier quietly disappeared from everyone's mind, replaced by the same familiar concern that always seemed to surround my sister. Mom had been sitting beside me laughing at something Uncle Carlos had just said, but her laughter stopped instantly. That expression I knew so well spread across her face again. That look of pure maternal panic Lauren could trigger with almost surgical precision. "Lauren, sweetheart, what happened?" Mom asked as she hurried halfway out of her chair, dropping her napkin onto the floor without even noticing. Lauren lifted her eyes toward Mom first, exactly as she always did. "Never, Dad." I had noticed that pattern years ago. "Mom, it really hurts," she whispered, letting her voice shake just enough. Not too much and not too little. It sounded natural, never exaggerated. Dad, meanwhile, immediately slipped into his usual problem-solving mode. "What kind of pain is it? Is it cramping, burning, stabbing?" "It is more like a dull ache," Lauren answered, closing her eyes as though she was concentrating on describing it. "But it is really strong, and it keeps getting worse." Grandma quietly crossed herself. Uncle Daniel frowned with concern. Cousin Carla was already digging through her purse to see whether she had any medicine. The focus of the entire room had completely shifted away from me and landed squarely on Lauren, as effortlessly as water running into a drain. I kept smiling and even joined in as everyone guessed what might be causing her pain. But inside, I found myself almost fascinated as I watched the whole process unfold. It reminded me of watching a conductor leading an orchestra. Every sigh, every slight grimace, every carefully chosen word was delivered to create exactly the reaction she wanted. On a scale from 1 to 10, Dad asked while reaching for the car keys sitting on the sideboard next to the dining table. That question had become almost sacred in our family over the years. Lauren paused for a few seconds, pretending to think carefully about the answer. Another perfect detail. If she had answered too quickly, someone might have realized how practiced she was. It is about an 8, she finally whispered, sounding even weaker than before. Maybe even a 9. Of course it was. It was never anything lower than 8. But it was never 10 either. 10 would have seemed too dramatic and far too obvious. She always stayed between 8 and 9, just enough to alarm everyone without making anyone suspicious. I watched the family instantly rearrange itself around Lauren's pain. Aunt Patricia began talking about the time she suffered from kidney stones. Grandma quietly reminded everyone how much Lauren had struggled ever since she was a little girl. Cousin Julia suggested it might even be appendicitis. My promotion, the reason we had gathered in the first place, had faded into a distant memory in less than 5 minutes. Lauren leaned over a little farther, bringing her other hand over to support the first one pressed against her side. "Mom, I think I need to lie down," she whispered, making sure every person at the table could still hear her. Then she did the one thing that always made my blood boil. She glanced directly at me for only a second, making sure no one else noticed. And then she smiled. It was tiny, almost impossible to catch, but I saw it. That was the smile of someone who knew they had just won. "Maybe we should take her to the hospital," Mom said as she pushed herself completely to her feet. "Megan, could you drive? I am too nervous." That was the exact moment something inside me finally broke. It was no longer simple anger. What I felt had become something much colder, calmer, and far more deliberate. Everyone began getting up, ready to turn what was supposed to be my night of celebration into yet another frantic trip to the emergency room. Another endless evening sitting in hospital waiting rooms while doctors ordered test after test that would once again show absolutely nothing. I stood up too, but instead of reaching for my purse, I picked up my phone. "Wait," I said, surprised by how calm my own voice sounded. "Before everyone rushes off to the hospital, there is something all of you need to see." Lauren looked straight at me, and for the very first time, I noticed something different in her expression. There was a flicker of suspicion, maybe even fear, but by then she was already too deep into her performance to back out. "Megan, this is not the time for this," Lauren said, still using that weak, exhausted voice she always put on. "I am in a lot of pain." "I know exactly how much pain you are in," I answered as I unlocked my phone, "and I also know exactly when it is going to disappear." Aunt Patricia looked confused. "Megan, what are you talking about?" I raised my phone where everyone could see it, my thumb resting over the play button. "I recorded this video 20 minutes ago, and every one of you is going to want to watch it." Lauren froze. Lauren. Her hand stayed pressed against her right side. Her face still wore the same expression of suffering, but something had changed. It looked like she suddenly realized the ground beneath her was giving way, even though she still did not understand how. "What video?" Mom asked, caught between worrying about Lauren and trying to understand what I was doing. I looked straight at Lauren and watched the exact second she realized she was in real trouble. Her eyes widened just a little, but she had gone too far to stop acting now. "Not with the whole family watching." "A video that is going to explain a lot," I said before tapping the play button. My recorded voice filled the room, steady and unmistakable. "It is 6:40 in the evening on Sunday. In about 20 minutes, I'm going to announce a fake promotion at work during family dinner. As soon as everyone finishes congratulating me, Lauren will wait a moment before grabbing the right side of her body and calling for mom. She will describe the pain as either an 8 or a 9. She will ask to lie down, and if she sticks to her usual routine, someone will be talking about taking her to the hospital within 15 minutes. The room became so quiet, I could hear the steady ticking of the wall clock. Everybody slowly turned to stare at Lauren. She had gone completely motionless. Her hand remained locked against her side, as though it had been glued there. She always grabs the right side, my voice continued from the recording. It does not matter whether she claims it is her stomach, kidney, chest, or something else. It is always the right side. She always calls for mom first, never dad. And somehow she always feels better after 2 or 3 hours, just long enough to destroy every important moment in my life. Grandma was the first person able to speak again. Lauren, is that true? Lauren tried to recover, but I could already see panic creeping into her eyes. I do not know what Megan is talking about, she stammered, trying to bring back that helpless voice. I really am in pain. Do you not believe me? I am not finished yet, I replied as I paused the recording. That was only the beginning. I opened another folder on my phone, one I had spent months carefully putting together. Would any of you like to see what really happened before our high school graduation ceremony? Megan, stop, Lauren whispered. This time there was almost no weakness left in her voice. It sounded tense, almost like a warning. I ignored her and started the next video. It was footage from one of the school's security cameras that I had managed to get through a friend who worked in the administration office. The recording showed Lauren standing alone in the hallway near the water fountains about 5 minutes before graduation. She was checking her phone with no one else around. Then she slipped the phone into her pocket, glanced around to make sure the hallway was empty, and began practicing. There she was, completely alone, rehearsing expressions of pain. She frowned, pressed a hand against her chest, made different faces, and watched herself in the reflection of the nearby window as she tried one expression after another. She was literally practicing which look would make people believe her the fastest. Oh my God, Aunt Patricia whispered, covering her mouth with her hand. There is still more, I said as I opened the next file. Do you all remember when Ethan ended our relationship? When he told me I had been cruel to my own sick sister? Lauren's face lost every bit of color. Megan, please do not. These are the original messages Lauren sent to Ethan while pretending to be me, I said as I pulled up the screenshots I had recovered from a backup of her phone. Another favor from a friend who knew his way around technology. Look closely at the dates and the times. She waited until I left the house before using my computer to create fake accounts. The messages were vicious. They said terrible things about Lauren, things I would never have imagined saying, much less writing. But they sounded exactly like me. They copied my slang, my expressions, even little details that only someone who knew me well could have included. Dad reached over with shaking hands and took my phone from me. He read every message in silence, and with each one, his face grew darker. She even checked my class schedule so she knew exactly when I would not be home. I continued. Then she created a fake Facebook account using my picture, added Ethan as a friend, and started sending him all of those messages while pretending to be me. When he confronted me, she acted completely shocked and claimed she must have let somebody else use her computer. Lauren, Mom whispered, her voice barely holding together. Please tell me this is not true. But it is true, I answered, feeling a cold sense of satisfaction as I watched everything Lauren had built begin to collapse right in front of everyone. And I have not even shown you everything yet. I opened another file, this time an audio recording I had secretly made the month before. This is a phone conversation Lauren had with her friend Olivia last week. Lauren's voice came through the speaker, loud and unmistakable. It is actually really easy, Bea. It is actually pretty simple, Lauren said in the recording. You just have to know which symptoms work best. If I say I have pain on the right side of my head, Mom panics right away. But if I say it is my stomach, she takes longer. And it works even better when Megan is having a good day. Then everyone feels sorry for me and gets mad at her for being insensitive. Olivia laughed. You are terrible, Lauren. But your sister really is annoying. She acts like she is better than everyone. Lauren did not hesitate. She has always been the favorite. She always gets everything. At least when I pretend to be sick, they pay attention to me too. And I enjoy watching her get frustrated. When the recording ended, the room fell completely silent. Lauren had gone pale, and this time her shaking was real. Lauren, Grandma said quietly, her voice full of disappointment. How could you do this? I am not finished yet, I said. Do you all want to see what happened at my 18th birthday? Lauren tried to stand, but Uncle Daniel gently stopped her. Stay here, he said. You need to hear this. I played another video. It showed Lauren behind the barbecue about 10 minutes before she pretended to faint. She thought nobody could see her. She was practicing different ways to fall on the grass, trying to find the safest and most believable one. She practiced for 15 minutes, my voice said in the video. She tried falling forward, backward, and to the side. She finally picked the side because the grass was softer. Cousin Carla let out a shocked laugh. Lauren, this is sick. No, I said as I lowered my phone. It is calculated. She turned manipulation into a skill. That was when Lauren finally broke. Fine, fine. Yes, I faked it. Sometimes, yes, but none of you understand. She started crying, but these tears were real. They came from anger and panic after getting caught. Do you know what it was like growing up as Megan's sister? Megan was the smart one, the popular one, the perfect one. I was always in her shadow. So you decided to ruin my life? I asked. You destroyed my relationships. You ruined every important moment. You made everyone think I was cruel. Because you had everything, Lauren shouted. You always had everything. I was just the girl who almost died as a baby. The only time anyone noticed me was when I was sick. But you were never sick, Dad said quietly. You lied to us for years while destroying your sister's life. Lauren, Mom whispered through tears. How could you do this? Cruel, Lauren laughed bitterly. You know what is cruel, watching everyone praise your sister while nobody notices you unless you are dying. You were not dying, I shot back. Not once in the last 5 years, you were acting. You lied and manipulated all of us. Because it worked, Lauren screamed. It was the only thing that worked. Uncle Daniel slowly stood up. Maybe I should leave, he said. No, I replied. Stay. There is still one more thing. Lauren looked at me in fear. Megan, please do not. Tell them about the money, I said. What money? Mom asked. Lauren stayed silent. Her face said enough. The money you all gave her for medicine, I said. The expensive medicine she claimed insurance would not cover. Dad's face turned red. Lauren, tell me that is not true. She spent it on makeup, clothes, dinners, and going out with friends, I said. I have the bank records and screenshots from Instagram. In the last 6 months alone, you gave her more than 3,000 rate. 3,000 re? Grandma repeated in disbelief. Not $1 went toward medicine, I said, because she never needed it. She was never sick. Lauren broke down crying again, but nobody comforted her. No one moved. 15 years, Mom whispered. 15 years of worrying about you, canceling plans, losing sleep. And I lost 15 years too, I said. 15 years of being called the cruel sister. 15 years of having every important moment ruined. 15 years of being blamed for not understanding my sick sister. Lauren looked up, tears running through her makeup. Megan, I am sorry. I really am. Now you are sorry? I asked. Now that everyone knows the truth? Aunt Patricia slowly shook her head. Lauren, I do not even know what to say. This is very serious. You all know now, I said as I looked around the table. Now you know who she really is. You know what she has done to me and to this family for years. Lauren tried to stand, probably to run, but Mom grabbed her arm. No, Mom said, her voice firmer than I had heard in years. You are staying right here. You are going to listen. You are going to face what you did. At that moment, I knew I had won. It was not just about exposing her, it was about finally getting justice. After all these years, the truth was finally out. But I wasn't done yet. I still had one last card to play. There is one more thing, I said as I pulled up a chair and sat across from Lauren. The last piece of the puzzle. Lauren looked at me with red, swollen eyes. Megan, please. They know now. No, I replied. They still do not know everything, because they have not heard about Ryan. The room went silent. Lauren turned white. Ryan, your ex-boyfriend? Mom asked. I thought you broke up because he moved to Denver. No, I said, staring at Lauren. We broke up because my little sister went after him. And he fell for it. Lauren started shaking. Megan, please do not. Show them the messages, Lauren, I said. Show them the pictures you sent him. What pictures? Dad asked angrily. Lauren found out Ryan was planning to propose to me, I said. He had already told me he wanted to buy a ring. She could not let that happen. Lauren could barely breathe. She started messaging him. First, she acted like she was worried about me, saying I was not ready for marriage. Then she started sending pictures. I showed everyone the screenshots Ryan had given me before we broke up. Lingerie photos, suggestive pictures, messages saying she had always liked him. Lauren, Aunt Patricia said in disgust. That is so low. And it worked, I continued. Ryan answered her. They started meeting in secret. She told us she had medical appointments, but she was really going to his apartment. My God, Grandma whispered. The saddest part is that she only stopped after she realized I was doing fine without him. When she saw I got a great job and moved on, she wanted me broken, and I was not. Lauren finally spoke, but her voice was barely a whisper. Megan, what, Lauren? I snapped. You were sorry? You were confused? I stood up and faced her. No, you just cannot stand seeing me happy. You cannot stand seeing me have something you do not. You want my life, Lauren. But here is the truth. You will never be me. Nobody said a word. You will never even come close, Lauren cried, but I kept going. The difference between us is simple. When I want something, I work for it. I earn it. You only know how to lie, manipulate, and destroy. You would rather steal someone else's life than build your own. Megan, please, Lauren cried. No, I shouted. You ruined 3 of my relationships. Ethan with the fake messages, Brandon when you lied and said I cheated, and Ryan. You drove away 3 men I loved because you could not stand seeing me happy. Dad stood up. Lauren, is that true? She could not answer. She only cried. Do you know what Ryan told me? I continued. He said Lauren convinced him I never loved him. She told him I was only using him until someone better came along. She said she knew the real me. That is not true, Lauren screamed. Of course it is not, I shouted back. But you made him doubt me. You took advantage of him. You destroyed the most serious relationship I ever had because you could not accept that someone loved me more than you. Uncle Daniel stood up. I cannot do this anymore. Lauren, this is sick. Sick is not even the right word, Aunt Patricia said. This is psychopathic. One by one, everyone started getting up. Wait, I called out. Before you leave, look at her. Look at the girl you protected. Look at the girl you defended while she made my life miserable for years. Look at the monster you created. Megan, Mom tried to stop me. No, I said. You are going to hear this. You are going to hear all of it. I looked back at Lauren. Do you know why you will never be me? Because I have something you never will. I have character. I have dignity. When I make a mistake, I admit it. When I want something, I earn it. You are nothing but a faker who steals pieces of my life just to feel important. You are so small that the only way you know how to exist is by tearing other people down. Lauren was shaking all over, and now everyone knows who you really are. Everyone sees the liar, the manipulator, the empty person who spent years pretending to be someone she could never become. Then I faced the rest of my family. And what about all of you? You always believed her. You always made me the bad guy. I hope you are proud because this is the daughter, granddaughter, and niece you defended. Grandma was crying. Megan, we did not know. No, I said. You never wanted to know. It was easier to believe I was the problem than admit your precious Lauren had been lying all these years. I looked at Lauren one last time. She looked small and broken in that chair. Congratulations, Lauren. You finally got what you always wanted. Everyone is looking at you. I paused. Too bad it is for the wrong reason. I picked up my purse and headed for the door. One more thing, Lauren. When you are sitting alone tonight crying because your life has fallen apart, remember this. I turned back one last time. You did this to yourself. Every lie, every manipulation, every cruel thing you did, it was your choice. Now you get to live with the consequences. Where are you going? Mom asked through tears. I am leaving, I answered. I am leaving this toxic family, this unhealthy mess, and especially her. I pointed toward Lauren without even looking at her. I am finally going to build the life I should have started years ago, a life where she cannot hurt me anymore. I walked out and slammed the door behind me. Just before it closed, I heard Lauren screaming. For the first time, it was not fake pain. It was real. And for the first time in years, hearing her cry did not make me feel guilty. It made me feel free.